I'm no expert on bobblehead turtles, but I thought the head bobbled well.
He's got like a micrometer, and he sits there and he like, this one isn't, no, there's a full 1/18 of an inch. Oh, sorry, centimeter.
Difference in the bobble?
Yeah. Heaven knows why they don't sell faster.
Oh.
But sometimes they'll swoop down.
Oh my gosh, wow. Sometimes they grow wings and take flight out of here.
Sometimes lightning strikes and they fly out of here. Yeah.
Can you guess what these are? And she immediately, like within seconds, messaged me back and said, wooden sandals. And I was like, how did you even know that? Hi, and welcome to our What Sold video for September 1st through 7th, where we will go over every item that we sold across multiple platforms. Let's dive in. All right, the first thing that we sold was one of the maps from the map bin. This was a 1979 Inter-Rent Deutschland, some word I can't pronounce.
Deutschland.
Is that how the song goes?
Sure.
This was a German travel map.
What's the thing you...
Reisekart. And that sold for $13. We had paid 9 cents for that.
Oh, we paid that much?
I know. Next up was a lot of 3 Thomas and Friends die-cast metal magnetic trains. It included a Thomas, a James, and a Butch. And they did have some wear. We had sold those for $12 on Poshmark, and we paid just 93 cents. It says from a garage sale, but I think they came from multiple different places.
That's an odd cost of goods from a garage sale.
We probably bought one at a garage sale for like 50 cents, and then the other 2 came from like toy bags or something.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Next up was a vintage antique. I couldn't tell for sure how old it was, but it seemed antique to me. This was a heavy, ornate silver plate handheld vanity mirror. When I say it was heavy, it was really heavy.
It was very dense.
And it did have some mirror, like age wear on it. I got this at a garage sale for $2, and it sold for $39.99 on Etsy. Next up was a 2018 Ravensburger 1,000-piece Yellow Submarine Beatles Jigsaw Puzzle.
Bells.
I got this on Mercari. I used some of my affiliate money and a coupon. I think I combined those 2 to get it for just 5 cents. And that sold for $32.18 on eBay. So I do really appreciate any of you who have clicked on my affiliate link. That does help me, and it helps you too, because if you are interested in shopping or selling on Mercari, you can use the link in our description box below, and you will get an immediate $10 in credits and also an additional $20 in credits when you sell $100 worth of items. And it is pretty easy to sell $100 worth of items, in my opinion, so that is a really easy way to get a free $30 for you to spend on Mercari, and like I said, it helps me out too. Next up was a Microsoft Office Home and Student 2010 version. It was new and sealed. This was gifted to us. We had no cost, and it sold for $120.
I can't believe it sold for that much.
I know. So do be on the lookout.
Keep an eye out for that stuff.
Yeah, especially if it's sealed, man. You can make a lot. Next up was a vintage mid-century modern brass swan sculpture. This was a pretty big one.
It was.
It was marked made in Korea. We got this at a rummage sale, a church rummage sale for $2, and it sold for $50 even on eBay. It was
quite heavy. That's why you noticed there was a heavy shipping cost on that one. It was really heavy.
There was, but we still made almost $30.
Oh yeah, we still did really good.
Next up was 4 packages, 30 feet each of Fright Tape. This was actually just like dollar store level stuff, but it was all new and sealed, and we got several packages of them at a rummage sale for just $2, and they sold right here in time for Halloween for $11.18. Next up was a vintage hand-painted 2-inch miniature bobblehead turtle. It was a souvenir of some folk art that's made in Mexico, and this was gifted to us to sell. We had no cost. It sold for $16.99 on eBay. And unfortunately, we received neutral feedback on this item. We didn't hear from the buyer ahead of time at all to let us know that there was an issue. And the neutral feedback said, condition good, head doesn't bobble as freely as others. I mean, I'm no expert on bobblehead turtles, but I thought the head bobbled
like
well.
He's got like a micrometer and he sits there and he like, this one isn't, no, there's a full 1/18 of an inch. Oh, sorry, centimeter.
Difference in the bobble?
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of a petty complaint, but that's just me.
I don't even know what I would call that.
Yeah.
I mean.
And also if they had issues, they could have returned it. So
yeah.
I did request a buyer feedback revision and got no response on that, unfortunately. And so what we did after the revision request expired is we went in and responded to the feedback. I'm not going to waste my time on messaging eBay because I know that they will say no.
No, they won't do anything.
But in my response, I said, buyer did not reach out to us to inform us there was an issue prior to leaving feedback. We offer free returns, which the buyer did not take advantage of. So I felt like this accomplished what we needed it to, which is that we would have offered a free refund. And that's really what another buyer wants to see when they're looking at the way that you respond to feedback. One thing you do not want to do, you never want to do this on eBay or really for that matter, any other platform, is respond to buyers in a public forum, especially, or in private either, by having too much emotion attached to it. You definitely want to detach your emotion before you respond. If it did upset you, just let a little while pass before you respond to a buyer in that instance. And you don't want to call a buyer names or call them a liar or anything like that on a feedback revision or a feedback reply. Because
even if they are a filthy liar.
Even if they are.
Don't call them that.
You definitely want to come off extremely professional and providing really good customer service, because when another buyer is scrolling through your feedback, the first thing they're going to do is sort it by neutral or negative feedback, if you have any negative, and see how you handled that situation. So they're going to look and see if you responded, this buyer is a liar, the head bobbled really well, they don't know what they're talking about. That's going to make you appear in a bad light. So that's my recommendation, is to just detach all emotion and respond with
who cares?
facts.
It was neutral feedback. And I mean, this is unarguable. He's comparing his standards of what the bobble should bobble. So there is no resolution for this other than him sending it back. There's nothing we could have done.
No.
And you can't measure a bobble.
No.
Like it approximately bobbles this.
It bobbled and it bobbled well.
It bobbled
it
well.
It didn't get caught or anything like that.
Or it bobbled. But like this is a unicorn weird.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do about this one. This is just, and like neutral doesn't matter.
I think we just sold something.
For the most part, neutral doesn't matter. Negatives are the ones we worry about.
We did. We just sold a baby blanket on Poshmark.
Nice.
So I'm going to actually, before we move on, I am going to delete that from eBay just so we don't have any double sales. We do use List Perfectly, but I don't pay for the version that delists it. So.
And it's less about not paying for it and more about she's highly distrustful that she needs to physically see it happening.
That is true.
It's more of an OCD thing, not a List Perfectly.
No, List Perfectly is excellent, and they have a lot of features for sellers. So if that's something you're interested in, we do have a link in our description box below. Okay, so I've gotten it off of eBay. I'll take it off of Mercari in a little while. And I think I have that one on Etsy too, so I'll do that. But you definitely don't want to double sell something on eBay because then you'll get a ding on your account.
eBay's the one we always immediately take it down
that's
because
the first one.
That's the one where the feedback can get hurt.
No, not even your feedback. You can get a
policy
violation for selling something that's out of stock. So anyway, moving on, the next thing that sold was a 1989 Scoremasters George Brett baseball card. This was Kevin's and it sold for $2.39.
I recently listed a whole bunch of new sets. A couple months ago, I put a whole, 10 new, 10, 15 new sets. And there's a few on here from that.
Next up was a 1989 Topps Stickers baseball card
this
or
one
sticker.
This one was on.
Oh, it was.
This was another one I just listed. Yeah,
this was a weird one that had multiple players on it.
This was the hardest set I've ever listed. It's a sticker set, a miniature sticker set, and one side has one sticker, and then the other side has like either a single sticker or a double sticker, but there's multiple variants. Like the one on the front can be one thing, and then the back could be 3 or 4 different versions. It's so hard to list. It's very confusing, but it's listed.
But we sold one.
And we sold one.
We sold it for $2.39.
Made a buck on it.
We made $1.11, and I don't know, when there's 3 of the same number, I always think that's good luck. So that's my what would you call that? A superstition? Yeah. Okay. Next up was an elegant sentiment. Silver and Ivory Christmas is Love Woodland Angel figurine. We were gifted a bunch of angel figurines from a family member. We had no cost, and they are not fast sellers, but they are selling on the regular. So this one sold for $23.98. They just...
Heaven knows why they don't sell faster. But sometimes they'll swoop down.
Oh my gosh, wow. Sometimes they grow wings and take flight out of here.
Sometimes lightning strikes and they fly out of here. Yeah.
All right, next up was a 1999 edition of a Wisconsin official state highway map, another map. This was purchased at that garage sale for 9 cents, and it sold for $9.58.
And we made $3.33.
$3.33.
Now that one's the best.
See?
Because it's 3.3. Oh, that's the best.
Prime number. All right, next up was a vintage 1987 Apple II AppleWorks computer software. It included most of the items from it, but it was incomplete, which we disclosed right in the title. This was actually mine from when I was a child. This came from my family computer, so I had no cost. And it sold for $124.99. So
old software.
Vintage software. Some of it will sell for a lot.
Especially old Apple software.
Yeah, Apple sells for a lot. Next up was a lot of 3 We Sing and Kids Sing VHS tapes. We Sing VHS tapes or cassettes always sell. And they sell for quite a bit. This is something that must be nostalgic for a lot of people. So we got this at the thrift store for 40 cents, and it sold for $29.99 for 3 VHS. So that's pretty good.
Nice.
Next up was a lot of 3 packages. There were 24 cards in total. It was Christmas house money holder cards and envelopes. We got these at the Goodwill bins. When Kevin picked them up, he found one, and you see him on the video like tossing it aside.
Just throw it back, and then it happens all the time. And then you go further in the bin and you find more of them. You're like,
once you find a lot, once you find a bunch and you can make a lot.
It sold really fast.
It did.
Like we only had a month or two, wasn't it?
We had paid $2.26 for that at the Fort Worth bins, and they sold for $14.99. Next up was a pair of vintage hand-carved wood Indian Cadao, I don't know for sure how to say that name, slippers or Chapal Paducah sandals. And he did not know what these were when he picked them up. He just knew it was hand-carved wood.
I always pick up at the thrift store bag was really milky too.
Yeah,
but I could tell
on purpose.
I couldn't see what it was. I thought it was like maybe a wall sconce or something, but it was really intricately hand-carved wood, and I always pick that up if it's cheap enough.
Exactly.
And then we got them home,
and then we got them home. I took them out, and I'm like, well, what even is this? I'm looking at it. One of them was obviously broken, but I finally identified it after like trying multiple times, holding it at different angles, as these wooden sandals, which I put on, and they were terribly uncomfortable. If I still have that picture, I'll show you guys. But the weirdest thing is I sent an email to Nina, our daughter, and said, can you guess what these are? And she immediately, like within seconds, messaged me back and said, wooden sandals. And I was like, how did you even know that? She's 17. And she was like, we just learned about those at school.
Oh,
I was like, man, I wasted all this time searching on Google Lens. I could have just asked her.
They didn't teach us anything like that in school. No, they didn't.
So anyway, those we had paid $3.78 for at the thrift store, and they sold for $39.98, and they were broken.
They were broken.
Yeah.
Like one of them had a chunk
piece of
out of it.
Wood broken off and lost.
And they also sold really quickly.
They did. So be on the lookout for Paducah sandals.
Just be on the lookout for hand-carved wood things, because it takes so much time and effort to do it. It's normally worth picking up.
Definitely.
For cheap.
What he said. Okay, next was a vintage Nike Team NBA Latrell Sprewell New York Knicks basketball jersey. I got this at a garage sale that I went to by myself. I was out running errands and I ran into it and paid $3 for it, and it sold for $59.99.
I knew that one was good when she brought it. When she showed me, I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
that was a good one.
I got some good things at that garage sale. Next up was a 2014 Dandy Collector's Choice Plush Holiday Snowflake Teddy Bear.
Oh, we used to pick those up all the time.
Yeah, and you know what? They sell. They do sell, but we quit picking them up because they are kind of slow movers
and they take
up
up
so much space. So we had paid $2.17 for that. This one sold for $11 on Poshmark, plus shipping, of course. On Poshmark, it's always plus shipping. Next up was a pair of New Balance men's cloud gray and night green sneakers. And we got those at a garage sale for $10. They were in really good condition, like almost new. And they sold for $62 on eBay. And they sold very fast.
Very fast.
Next up was a 1995 Donruss Showdown Roger Clemens and Tony Gwynn card. This was Kevin's. It sold for $8.99, so it was a little
that was
valuable.
an insert card. It was one of 10,000. So it was numbered. It was a special card.
Next up was a Ask and It Is Given Part 1, The Law of Attraction. It was like an audio book on CD. We got this at the thrift store for $2.70, and it sold for $19.99.
We did good on that. I'm really surprised I paid $2.70 for that.
I think it might have been sealed, although
It was
I
sealed.
might. Yeah,
It was
I
new
think
and
I just
sealed.
didn't have room to put that on the title.
At the thrift store, I normally don't pay that much for media, so
Yeah.
must have been a reason. Maybe I looked it up and saw that it would sell or something.
Next up was a vintage 1980s Ralph Lauren men's button-up collared shirt with the pony embroidery. We got this a very, 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 very long time
very
ago.
first thrift. Was it our first thrift trip?
No, it was the second. I
Second
think.
thrift trip.
So this was at a local thrift store. We paid $4.92 for it, and I don't know why it took a long time to sell, but it sold eventually for $28 on
It
Poshmark.
sold. We got good money. We got good feedback.
Yeah.
And honestly, people talk about not picking up Ralph Lauren.
Yeah.
I don't understand. It takes some time sometimes, but we sell
we
every.
sell them all the time.
We sell Ralph Lauren polo shirts, the
Yeah, I wouldn't pay
with the
more than
little
like
pony on it.
$5 for them.
No, but they sell.
Yeah. Next up was a vintage Wrangler men's white extra long tails pearl snap up Western shirt. I think it did have some staining on it or some kind of damage because it says Reed.
I think it had some mild staining because it was a solid white shirt.
Yeah.
I grabbed that one in a dark garage, I remember.
I'm sure, yeah. So we got that at a garage sale for $3.50, and it sold for $19.99.
You know, I always pick up the pearly snap shirts.
I know. Next up was a Cutter and Buck women's red and black packable insulated vest, and it had Top Golf customization on it, and that was new with tags. We got that at a garage sale for $5, and it sold
right across the street.
Yeah, exactly. And it sold for $38.70, and that also sold really fast.
Really quickly.
Yeah. Next up was a Readington fly fishing combo kit. It was a crosswater reel and a rod, and it had a case with it. But the downside to this item is that it's the case specifically, and we aired it out for like more than a year. Not even joking.
We had that thing sitting for a year.
Yeah, and it's
not wanting to sell it because it smelled
so bad of cigarettes.
It smelled like cigarettes so bad, and I went back after a year and smelled it, and it smelled just.
I was like,
the same.
this is not gonna.
It's never
smell.
gonna come out.
We just need to sell it.
So we just listed it smelling like smoke, and
we were very clear about it. I listed.
After they bought it, she sent them a messages and says, "Just so you know,
it's probably annoying
it
them.
Smells like smoke." And they were like, "I don't care."
Okay, it's fine.
He probably smoked. I was like, "I don't care."
I did lower the price on this item to compensate for the fact that it smelled like smoke. It sold really fast, which I think they sell fast anyway. And the buyer was really happy with it.
It was a full-size traveling rod. Like it broke into like 4 pieces and had a nice little case. It was cool.
And it sold, even with the cigarettes that smoke.
Once we listed, it sold very fast.
It sold for $95.
Yeah.
So that was a lot. And you can get a lot more for them if they don't smell like cigarette smoke. Okay, next up was a pair of women's jean shorts by the brand C'est Toi.
C'est toi.
C'est Toi. And these we got out of a storage unit. We paid 28 cents for those. Not a brand I would seek out or pick up otherwise, but we already owned it, so we listed it, and it sold for $15 on eBay. Next up was a WDNY women's brown brocade grape pattern knee-length flare skirt. We got this gifted to us to sell. We had no cost, and it sold for $11 on Poshmark. Next up was a DShout Laugh and DShout Laugh 3 Christian comedy DVD.
We didn't have 2. That's the one you want to look out for.
Not really.
Not really. We don't know.
But this was gifted to us to sell, and we had no cost. They sold for $10.99. Next up was an Ikea aluminum Cartal rail for a drawer or one of the closet systems. It was a discontinued item, new in the package. We got this at the thrift store for $2.16. It sold really fast for $69.99. The buyer messaged us after receiving it and stated that it was missing one of the screws.
Not possible.
Which is very odd to me because it was a sealed package, and in an IKEA package, the hardware is usually in another sealed package.
And it was in there.
So I thought it was an odd thing to complain about. I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying I found it odd.
I'm saying that it's not true.
We don't know that for sure, but I do always force a return no matter what the complaint, because unless I know for a fact that I was at fault, and on this one I did not. So I did insist that they return it, and they have sent it back, but we have not received it yet.
Because if it was genuinely missing a screw, fine, but you could easily find a replacement screw.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more they bought it for a screw, took the screw, and then are sending it back.
Maybe. It's a weird one.
It's fishy because it was brand new in the package.
So now we are left with the decision, do we only refund them partially? Do we refund them in full? I'm probably just going to refund them in full because it's not worth it to me, but it is frustrating.
People.
So next up was a Goran Brothers, which is a brand you definitely want to be on the lookout for. This was a trucker hat with a dog on it. And Goran Brothers sells clothing also. I would just say that it is a brand that typically moves really fast. I had it overpriced in the beginning, which is why it didn't move as fast for us, but I guess I was kind of feeling greedy. I got this at a garage sale for just $1, and it sold for $47.98 on eBay.
It was a cool hat. It had a little bulldog or something on it.
Yeah, I think it did. Next up was a 2007. The brand was Mojave Glass, and this was a German coffee mug. It had Hamburger Dom das Herz von Hamburg. And I think that was a church or a location in Germany. We got this at the thrift store for $1.03. I picked it up. I thought it was interesting looking. I don't think I found many comps on it, but it sold for $22. So we did get a really nice message back from the buyer, and they said, thank you for packaging the item so well for shipping. It means a lot to me. The church on the mug is known as the Michelle, and it is where my ancestors were married. Therefore, it is like a piece of family history. I left you positive feedback. Have a great day. So we always love getting messages like that because we wonder why people buy our stuff all the time, what it means to them. I like knowing
where the stuff goes.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. So we appreciated that message. Next up was a Linksys by Cisco high-speed Ethernet 5-port work group switch. This was new in the package, some kind of computer thing. Got this at a garage sale for $5, and it sold for $22.39. Next up was an Ann Taylor women's black pinstripe virgin wool career blazer. This was gifted to us. It sold for $20 even. Next up was an authentic Dragon Ball Z men's long sleeve hoodie. It had some symbols for one of the characters from Dragon Ball Z. We got this at a garage sale for $1. It did have some staining on it, but it sold immediately for $18.68.
We would have gotten a lot more if it didn't have the staining.
Had it not had the staining, probably could have listed it for more like 35-ish, but it had some pretty significant staining.
We still made 6 times our money.
Yep.
And it was quick.
Next up was a homeschool textbook called As Full as the World. It was for reading. And I think it had 2 books, a textbook and a work text, whatever that means. We got this at a garage sale for $2 and it sold for $29.99.
We've been selling a lot of homeschool stuff lately.
Yeah.
We actively look for it now.
We do, yeah. Next up was a lot of 16 Vietnamese children's language learning VHS. These were probably really nostalgic to somebody who's Vietnamese in the way that Barney or Thomas the Train or the We Sing or something like that is nostalgic to
I'd say it's
to us.
Most similar to We Sing.
Yeah, but it's basically this company that makes these particular ones is a really well-known and established company in Vietnam. I did some research on it. And now they have pivoted from like VHS and stuff like that to making YouTube videos. So this was an item that was actually gifted to us to sell. We have no cost. And these sold like within an hour of me listing them.
Immediately.
Within an hour.
Like list, sell.
Yeah. They sold for $109.98. So definitely something to be looking for. And
the only downside to those is I test all VHS.
yeah.
I will not send a VHS out if I haven't tested it to make sure it works. That's my promise. So I watched 16 Vietnamese children's show singing tapes.
Not the whole thing.
Not the whole tape,
Yeah.
but just enough of it to make sure that it, and I rewind them all because be kind, rewind.
Yeah.
But that was a lot. That's how I know so well what's on these tapes, because I had to watch them all.
This message was approved by Kevin Williamson.
Yes. But you should always test your VHS if you're going to sell it, or cassettes.
If you have a VHS.
Well, you should
VCR,
get one. You shouldn't be selling them if you don't test them, honestly. If they're not wrapped, you should be testing them.
Yeah, because a lot of the ones that we test, they
Every once in
snap,
a while, you find a bad one.
or they have really bad,
And you don't want that.
what do you call the
your
lines?
customer to get one. Tracking.
They have really bad tracking issues. Or the other thing you need to look for on VHS is look inside the case through the clear part and see if it has mold in it.
Because we've gotten some tapes from like a coastal environment were given to us, and a lot of them had mold in them.
Yeah.
So we
you
just
have to be
just
careful.
tossed them all. We didn't even. Yeah.
So that wraps up all of our sales for this week. Let's go over the totals. We sold 36 items. And we did sell a lot of high-value items this week.
Yeah, this was a good week.
So our average sale price was high at $35.15. And our sales totaled $1,265.29. That made for a net profit of $771.43.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like I've said before, $100 a day would be ideal. That's $110.
Yeah,
So if we could do that every week, whew,
that would be awesome.
sitting pretty.
Well, thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let us know if you did by hitting the like button, and comment below with what your best sale of this week was. And also, if you have somebody who you think would enjoy this video, please share it out to them. That helps us spread the word about our YouTube channel and lets YouTube know that this is content that you enjoy. And if you've made it this far and you're not already subscribed, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. That is also the #1 thing that helps us. Thank you so much, and we will catch you
On the flip
on the flip
side.
side.